Dun. Post the link. Let's change the outfit. Okay. Actually, I might have to tackle this a little bit differently than others. Yeah, let's draw this normally and then we can change things later. Hello, I'm just updating one of my older characters since he's a little bit more relevant than others. No. Actually, I'll do it one at a time. Yes, him. That would be chaos. Let's do it this way. Been quite a while since I've drawn this character, so he's getting a decent update. I hope you have a good day, no worries. Let's see. I'm gonna try to simplify some of his design compared to his old one. I can put the old artwork up here too. Let's move this over. There we go. Since I have that up, move this over. little thinner than this. Kind of like his more toonish limbs, so I might tweak some of that. So actually, I probably don't have to go that far. I can just do limb tweaks. Just change up what's necessary. Yeah, I just decided to update him. I kind of did a lot of the thirsty stuff yesterday. This is a bit of a palate cleanser. But I'll likely draw something else either on this stream or tonight. His comically large hands. What's the struggle, exactly? Okay, I was like, what? Like you're because you pointed out lesbians. I was just like, okay, is that like the part you're struggling with, or like what? And as for the eyeliner and all, it is just red or black, depending on which version of Super Saiyan 4 you're going for. But yeah, I was just like, what's the hard part here? I don't know. Hello, welcome, and good morning, or at least morning for me. Yeah, it kind of just depends on what you're trying to do, because sometimes, even though you're trying to go for a particular look, sometimes if you're trying to make it close to the art style of, like, let's just say like Sonic, Dragon Ball, can throw in Naruto or JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, depending on the art style, it may make whatever your idea is look odd. So you might have to adjust or accommodate for the style change, because it can still work, but you have to like do it in the mindset of the art style itself, if that makes sense. I do have a Discord, but I mainly use it for Patreon stuff. And I don't have a Telegram. For a moment there, I was like, what am I doing? But I'm sure you'll get it right. It could also be one of those situations where you just gotta step away for a while and kind of refresh your mind, and then you'll come back at it a lot better off. It could be just that situation where you're spending way too much time on it, so you just need to take a break. Because that happens with me quite a bit. I'll be like, ah, this looks like shit, and then I'll be like, okay, you know what, I'm just gonna go do something else. The full Super Silver. Because he's, like, unfortunately, Silver is like one of the most uninteresting characters of Sonic. It's like, all we really have of him is he's from the future, and he's trying to stop whatever disaster is going to happen, and that's kind of it. We don't really get much lore on his future and like what life is like there. Aside from like, you know, you have like the destruction version, but then it's like, okay, so if hypothetically he did save his future, what would that look like? And even if he is living in the destruction future, it's like, what else is going on there? Like, is there anybody else to interact with? Because all we had in 06 was just him and Blaze and basically Mephiles, and that was kind of it. In the Archie version, we at least had Mammoth Magul, because Mammoth Magul is immortal. So we had some like extra lore with him. Yeah, and then Sonic 06 itself got retconned. So then you have that to think about. And so the only thing that's canon that we have of Silver is the IDW comic. No, Blaze didn't die. She just got sent to another dimension, which is because they were trying to explain how Blaze is from another dimension, which doesn't make any damn sense to begin with, because she wasn't originally tied to the future. She was just an alternate dimension. She was literally just like, Blaze is literally just Sonic, Knuckles, and Princess Sally put together. That with fire powers. She's literally those characters put together. And it was great because it's like, oh cool, we basically have like a more balanced version of those characters. And she's like really competent and stuff like that. She's cool, confident, fun character to play as. Everything's great. Then 06 happened, and they tried to say that she's originally from the future, and then she got sent to another dimension, despite never mentioning any of that. And then they tried to do the same thing with Eggman Nega by saying he was from like the future that got sent into Blaze's dimension somehow. And so they were just overdoing something that was completely unnecessary to do. And then when it comes to Silver, Silver is just Trunks, but like uninteresting. He has nothing going for him other than, oh, I need to stop the Ibulus trigger. And then if you're going off of 06, okay, he succeeds technically, but then we still have nothing interesting about him. Like there's nothing more to Silver that makes him interesting. And then they keep trying to pair him with Blaze, and Blaze is just more like treating him more of like a younger brother type of relationship. Like they're just like more of like a looking out for him type of scenario, because there's literally nothing going for the character. He has nothing, which is weird because before that was a thing, Shadow was the one that basically had nothing going on up until Shadow Generations. That was like the most lore he ever got in like ages. So I don't know, maybe we'll get like a Silver game and that will make him a more interesting character. Like they could literally make a game for like every single Sonic character and it would be a good idea. Well, I mean, you aside from finding out what the story and all that is, like we have to know if that would work out. But like they could literally make a game for every character. Even if it's like a short game, it would still be way more helpful than not. Speaking of deaths, they just killed Mimic off. I didn't expect that he died. What do you mean? Going off of the Trunks comparison, that's why I don't understand the death battle made Silver win. I mean, yeah, I'd have to look at the death battle because I don't know that story in particular. Like, are we going off of Silver versus Trunks? Is that what it was? Yeah, I'd have to watch that. Because the only thing Silver has going for him, like just off of my own head information without looking at Death Battle, the only thing Silver's really got going for him is that if he's using the Chaos Emeralds at all to go super, his advantage is that 1, he's invulnerable. 2, if you're going off of Chaos Emerald lore, like at least from the Archie version, he can basically make a wish and just make shit happen. If we're going off of game lore, it's kind of similar, but it just depends on the scenario. But I'd have to look at Death Battle to see what the hell they're trying to spin. Because the biggest problem with Death Battle is that they try to combine like different versions of a character into one. And try to say like that's the definitive version of the character, which doesn't make sense. Oh, that character. Okay, I'm thinking of FNAF for some reason. He had a fight with Whisper. He didn't trust Whisper because she was acting like she was gonna shoot him. Oh, really? I'll have to catch back up with Sonic. I kind of drifted out for a few months, so I'll have to get those comics and read them. Yeah, like they have a very bad habit of picking versions of characters and saying like, oh, that means the character can accomplish this feat. And it's like, no. one, those are different versions of the character that you're putting together, and two, you're also going off of cartoon logic with a lot of feats. Like, there will be situations with a character where, like, for example, I think it was Donkey Kong, where he, like, punches the moon. And it's like, sure, he does that, but then it's like, okay, how is that in contrast to what he normally does in his universe? Because, like, are we going off of that version of the character? Are we going off of, like, the cartoony version? And then there's, like, so much to go into, because it's like when they had the whole Sonic versus Mario thing, and they had Sonic win the first one, then Mario won the second one for some reason, because it doesn't make sense. None of their powers changed. No worries. Even though I get spoiled on something, I still read the stuff because I want to know the context and stuff like that. But yeah, like, situations like that just make me question. It's like, okay, what's the point of Death Battle if you're not gonna be accurate to the characters? Because there's, like, situations where they try to say, I think it was like Aizen versus what's his name, Madara, and they're trying to say, like, Aizen's abilities don't work on Madara for some fucking reason. And I'm like, dude, he literally fools a character who can see all possible timelines. How the hell are you saying that his illusion abilities wouldn't work on Madara? And it's all like an ocular thing too. And then plus, Aizen technically can't die. So it was you can tell that a lot of it's playing on favoritism rather than what the characters can actually do. Like, one of the only fights that made sense to me was, like, Sonic versus the Flash, and I just flat out said, okay, if he has access to the emeralds, then Sonic wins. If he doesn't, then Flash wins, because Flash has a lot of bullshit abilities. And sure enough, they said that they weren't going to use the emeralds for that fight, and I was like, oh, okay, so the Flash wins immediately. Like, before they even said the explanation, or like the going through character lore and stuff like that, I was like, oh, like, the Flash wins. He can siphon speed for one, so it has nothing to do with whether or not Sonic is faster than the Flash or not. It's just the Flash can absorb speed. But if Sonic had access to the emeralds, he could just, wish the Flash to not exist. And if we're going into, like, every bit of Sonic lore, then all you gotta do is say, give Sonic Hypersonic, and it's like, okay, he's Hypersonic, he can just make the Flash die instantly. Yeah, like, I stopped watching Death Battle. When was the last one that I watched? It might have been the Sonic and Flash one. I would have to look at their catalog. It's been a long time since I've watched it. But yeah, like, before they were trying to be accurate to whatever version of the character they were using, but then they got into the habit of just, like, combining every version of a character together. And I think we're done with these. Yeah, we're at the end of that. Goku Black versus Reverse Flash. I'd have to see that one. Because, like, if a character is basically, when it comes to death battle, it kind of boils down to whether or not the character can time travel. And there was like one other thing, because it was basically two things. It was like, are they faster? Can they time travel? And are they like immortal or something like that? I forget. There was like a way to kind of tell how a fight was gonna play out, like almost immediately, before you even got any explanation for anything. Because it just kind of became boring after a while, because it was just like, oh, okay, this character can time travel, I guess they win. Or, oh, this character is immortal. If this character is immortal, I guess they win. And sometimes it was still entertaining, but then other times it was just like, oh, all right, this isn't even like a fair fight anymore. But then there'll be like situations where they just kind of pull bullshit, and they'll just say like, oh, well, here's this obscure item that they happen to have at one point, but it's in a different version of the character. And then you have like the whole situation of like, okay, they're combining character versions again. So how do we know this character could actually win if we're just going to take every feat from every random nonsense that happens throughout this character's existence against another character who doesn't do that? Doom Guy versus Master Chief. I think I saw that one. I'd have to watch it again. It's been a long time since I looked at Death Battle anything. Have I had alcohol in my coffee? But yeah, it's just stuff like that. Now the question is, do I want him having his satchel masks? I could probably do that. But let me give him his baggy pants first. DG versus MC, who are they? Or what does that mean? Probably not, because Webtoons is just way too restrictive. Like, I'm thinking of just removing everything from Webtoons because it's just not worth it. It's either not worth it or I have better versions of whatever comics they're on there in mind. But if I do add anything to Webtoons, it'd have to be something pretty... something that more in lines with how their site is designed and stuff like that. Oh, Doom Guy Master. Okay. Okay, because I haven't watched Death Battle like at all in like years, so I'd have to check it out. But like sometimes they'll just give feats to the characters that don't make sense to give. And then when it comes to characters like Superman, it's like, okay, but Superman is literally designed to do whatever he wants. So it's not even like a fair fight. sure, Superman can air quotes die, but the conditions for that are so like limited that any other character that can't meet those conditions are just like, okay, what do you do? Like, even when they gave Goku like the small sliver of, oh, he has the power pole and the power pole is magic, it's like, okay, but it's definitely not a magical item that could kill Superman. It's like what are we kidding here? That was never going to be a thing. And even when they did like the whole rematch, like oh, Goku has a new form, I was like, doesn't matter, it's fucking Superman. And don't get me wrong, Superman's not like a character I like that much, because he's just really boring. With small exceptions to some of his stories. But I'm not gonna like discredit the character. It's like, no, if I believe he can win a fight, I'm gonna say he should be winning that fight. No, I am not a fan of reactions, to be honest. Like, I will watch reactions every once in a while if I want to see a particular person's like thoughts of the matter. But aside from that, that's pretty much it. Because my biggest gripe about reactions is that basically they just ride on the hard work of other people. Yeah, like, and again, the creators of Superman said he is literally able to do whatever he needs to do. Like, Superman was built to be impossible. And like the only times he's air quotes died was like whatever plot relevant storyline they were going for. And that's kind of it. Like, he's designed to be the character that's the hero. Like, you know, he can't lose. And Goku has already died multiple times. Yeah, Doomsday is an interesting character, because in some lore they try to say he's like a mutated Kryptonian. In other lore, he's just genetically engineered to be the way he is. Because the whole point of Doomsday is that basically his creator started Doomsday as like an infant and just threw him out into the world to constantly be killed by everything and anything. Like, he like just a random like predator planet type of thing. It's like, here's a baby, throw him into, like, let's just say dinosaurs, for example. So just gets killed by everything to the point where, and then because his ability is whatever killed him, he can't die from it anymore. That's what makes him impossible to defeat to a degree. So Doomsday just gets to the point where he's capable of killing Superman by brute force. And like, the only way to really deal with Doomsday is to just toss his ass into another dimension. That's like kind of it, because he's essentially immortal. Well, yeah, the whole point of Superman was to inspire soldiers and stuff like that at the time, where, you know, they're stuck, you know, in the middle of a war, and then and like during like downtime they have this comic book to kind of cheer themselves up and, you know, progress, move forward. So Superman was literally made to be an inspirational character. You know what? I'm gonna go with the cartoony legs. That's why they make Superman evil all the time, because they really don't know what else to do with. Yeah, you either have an evil Superman, or you have a Superman with like limited to no powers. That's kind of it. That's like all he has that's interesting. Because one of my small gripes with characters like Superman is that they get to a point where like they don't like, okay, in Superman's case, he doesn't exactly earn his feats later down the line, because like in the beginning he had like, you know, proper weaknesses and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, he was super, but like he could still, like, you know, take damage and get hurt in a fight, and then eventually, you know, lift himself up to win the battle and all that. But then it gets to a point where nothing really affects him, and then they like give him scenarios where he's like, I don't know if they do this anymore, but in the beginning he was like really intelligent, because it always seems like when he's alone in his own comics or stories, he's like really intelligent. He knows like a lot of scientific stuff and all that. But then when he's like around other characters like Batman, for example, suddenly all of that goes away. Like, they don't show him being dumb or anything, they just don't show his intelligence anymore. And they usually just leave that to like Batman or like Mr. Terrific or something. And it's weird when they do that, because it's like, okay, so is he really intelligent or is he not? Because in certain scenarios they may look like he's like, you know, he's just super knowledgeable for some reason, even though they don't really show him doing anything remotely related to that. So maybe it could be something like they just phased out because he didn't like do anything to earn that kind of knowledge, or just like a situational thing where if he's alone he just has it or something. I don't know. It's odd, because there's just certain things he shouldn't have. Curious if Doomsday is dropped into Death Battle, would he be immune to Hakai? I don't think he would be immune to Hakai, because it removes his existence. Not just like... It's like... What's the best way to put it? It would basically remove all of his being. Like, it's not like Cell, where there's like a chance that, you know, a cell would exist or something and that would regenerate or something like that. It's just, he would just no longer exist. So I'm pretty sure Hakai would kill Doomsday, because it's just destruction. It just erases him. That's actually Markiplier's reasoning why he despises Superman and likes Goku, not as much as Vegeta, because Superman is just... Yeah. Because, like, and Goku has this issue as well, where he gets to a point where some fights can become boring to a degree. Like, I'll be honest, the setup for Tournament of Power is really bad, because they set it up as, oh, you only have 45 minutes or something like that for this fight, and then at the end of the fight, you know, whoever's team has the most fighters is the winner, right? But so much happens in 45 minutes that it just feels like complete bullshit. Because, like, so many characters get power-ups, so many characters, like, break their limits, like, almost immediately, when before it actually took, like, time, effort, rest, like, actual rest, and then, like, refinement as well. It's like there's, like, they're accomplishing things that took them forever to do previously. What else is going on? I'm trying to read everything. If he gets killed by Beerus, then yeah, Doomsday would be impossible to kill, even if Zeno kills him. But that's not how that works, though, because your existence is being erased. There's nothing to come back from. Like, when Doomsday dies, his body still exists when he dies, and then that's what regenerates and comes back. If you're just erasing everything, then there's nothing to come back from. Reverse Flash that question. DC carries all. Reverse Flash is different because what's the best way to put it? He exists so that the Flash exists. And then because the Flash and him are technically time travel characters, you can also work in the argument that even if one dies, as long as he exists in other moments in time, he can just come back because he can just jump into another time moment where he no longer exists, and there you go. Because that's what happens with in Kamen Rider Kabuto, which is like a kind of like Japanese Power Rangers but better. Kabuto gets an item called the hyper Zect, I believe that's what it was called. And basically it allows him to basically go through time and space if he wants. And at one point it gets destroyed before he even gets to use it, like before Kabuto even obtains it. Like the first episode that he gets that form, the item gets destroyed, and the main villain's like, there, now you can't use it. But because it's an item that exists in all forms of time, it can just time travel to him at any point before it was destroyed. And so it doesn't matter. It's also like Celebi from Pokemon. Celebi dies in the movie, but other versions of Celebi from different points in time show up and use their abilities to revive him. So it doesn't matter. If it's a time-based item or character, it doesn't matter when you destroy it, because as long as it exists at any other point in time, it can just time travel to another point in time. Hold on, let me put up some music, and then we can keep talking. I'll put this on. Isn't it in one instance Doomsday coming back through cloning? Yeah, like it's basically like whatever is written for Doomsday, that's kind of whatever happens. Because like, yeah, you can get rid of Doomsday, but if we're going off of the whole, he still has like a creator, and the creator has like samples of other Doomsday clones and stuff, or like if any other villain got Doomsday's blood or something during a Superman fight and they made a clone of him, then you could go off of that too. So you can still essentially kill Doomsday by erasing his existence, but as long as he has a body or anything that can regenerate, then you essentially can't kill Doomsday in the normal way. If you want to watch Kamen Rider, just go to hold on. I'm not gonna link this because I don't want to deal with the bullshit, but I'll just type in the first name of it. But just go to Tokuzilla. That's the name. That's the how you spell it. Just go to tokuzilla.net, and there you go. It has like a shit ton of Kamen Rider, or whatever else they have. Waking Area is proven to be more knowledgeable than power scaling than with power. Well, it's not even that. It just depends on what the source material is that's being used. Because like before, like for example, Supersonic. Before Supersonic could drown in water, but then later on they made it so that he can't drown. So I was like, okay, cool. Or like how originally Sonic couldn't swim, but if you go off of Sonic Unleashed, Sonic can technically swim because he can just keep jumping underwater for some reason. They never explain why he's able to do that. It could have been an oversight. No, Doomsday can't become stronger than Zeno or even Beerus, because if you erase his existence, there's nothing to adapt. And even if he has clones, the clones don't get that ability. They're just gonna die again. Like, erasing his existence is literally the best way to get rid of Doomsday. Because there's nothing to resurrect from. Yes, there's zero way for Doomsday to come back from complete erasure. Like, Doomsday has a higher chance of coming back from a black hole than he does from having his existence being erased. And if somehow they do bring, like, if they did involve him in a fight where that happens, where his complete existence gets erased and somehow he comes back from that, they are going to have to really fucking explain that, because honestly, that would write them in a corner, because that would make zero sense. It's like, how do you get rid of existence and then still come back? Because people thought that was the case with Doomsday's Omega Beams, where if you get hit by them, you're just gone. Because that happens to Batman, where he gets hit by the Omega Beams and he's just gone. But then you find out that the Omega Beams just sent him back in time. So then it's like, okay, does Darkseid's Omega Beams just send things to like random moments in time? But that's like a whole other discussion. Okay, like, if you're saying death alone, but there's always context to it. Like, his body still exists. If we're talking about like the god of death in the context of DC, then there's that whole other scenario with that. But again, we're talking about removal of existence. That means he doesn't exist in death either. He just no longer exists, period, the end. There's no heaven, there's no hell, there's no in-between. He's just gone. You can't adapt to that if there's nothing to come back from. Because even Dragon Ball sort of follows that rule where, like, Goku died, but his soul exists in, like, you know, the afterlife. And then because of the certain conditions of his life, he was able to retain his body when he died. Because in Dragon Ball, at least, when that happens, your body just kind of fades away, similar to, like, a Star Wars thing. And then, you know, his body exists in the afterlife, so there's that scenario. But we're talking about complete erasure, where Beerus does that to Zamasu, and Zamasu just no longer exists, period, the end. And then Zeno just just erases a whole reality, and there's nothing to come back from. Because if that wasn't the case, then Zamasu's fused form, or whatever entity he becomes at the end of that arc, would still persist because it's immortal, or at least half immortal. Whatever the fuck that means. It's like, how are you half immortal? But whatever. Because if that wasn't the case, then Zeno's ability wouldn't work on Zamasu's fused form. What if he was killed, but his existence was tied to Superman dying, like with the whole Reverse Flash deal becoming a blocking paradox? You would have to create that paradox for it to work that way. And you'd have to explain how that works. Because, again, we're talking as if... Because, like, you keep saying Doomsday gets killed, but you're not explaining how he's being killed. If we're talking about complete erasure, he can't come back. If you're trying to say he's tied to Superman in some kind of weird paradox thing, then sure, but then that is kind of tied to time travel stuff, and you would have to explain the time traveling thing in order for that to make sense. So you're leaving out a lot of context that doesn't make sense, or that wouldn't work depending on how you go about it. So you would have to tell me a scenario that actually, supports your statement, and then I would have to try to argue it. But because you're leaving out context, or like you don't have a setup for how this could work, then there's not really much else I can tell you other than, unless it's like some weird bizarre time scenario, or like let's just say Doomsday gets completely removed, like his body is gone, everything, but there's some like weird curse time thing or curse magical scenario that's linked to Superman, and it just makes Doomsday just kind of fade back into existence. If something like that happens, sure, but then you would have to explain to me whether or not he's able to adapt after that, because it's like, how does that part work? You'd have to explain his ability to adapt after not existing in order to adapt to it. It's like, okay, he didn't exist, so what is he adapting to? And how would his body not be affected by whatever removed his existence? Because the only cop-out way you can say is just, it doesn't work, and that's it. It's like, oh, okay, it just doesn't work anymore. It would be like, how Superman can just stand there and a bullet touches hits his body and nothing happens. Like, it would just devolve into that kind of situation. Why are people calling me? It's like any other time that I'm not doing anything, nobody calls, and then anytime I'm doing something, that's when I get the calls. Would a Hakai have any effect on a destroyer if used on Supreme Kai of the respective universe? That is a very good question. Because we have no idea if Hakai works on those types of beings. Because we've never seen it be done. Like, we've seen it used on Zamasu when he's in his default form, but he's not like tied to any destroyer or anything like that. And then that's like a whole other discussion. It's like, are they always going to be tied to a destroyer, or is this like a specific case? Because like, if we're going off of Daima, then we have, Shin being born and all that, but we don't have like any information on Beerus at that point in time. And so it's just like, wait, so when did they get bound to each other? It's like, what, and why is that a thing? They never really explained that. Like, what was the purpose of them being bound? Then how would Zamasu still be around twice? Because no, with Zamasu, the best way to explain that is there are different timelines in different Zamasus. Because you have the one that was in Goku's timeline that gets erased by Beerus. And even Beerus says, don't worry about it, I already erased him, so there shouldn't be a horrible future to go back to. So when they do go back into Trunks' timeline, all that does is further explain that their timelines are not linear. So whatever happens in blue-haired Trunks' time, because honestly, I'm going with the fact that those are two different characters, because that's the only way that makes sense. But blue-haired Trunks' timeline, Zamasu, like even the Goku Black that shows up, he says he's from another timeline. because that's the only way that situation even works. And so you have the Zamasu that dies by Beerus, you have the Zamasu that took over Goku's body and then travels to another version of time, and then you have the Zamasu from the Trunks' future that's being fucked up by Goku Black and that version of Zamasu. So we already have those three timelines. And then technically, if we count Purple Hair Trunks' timeline, that's a whole other scenario. Because the best way to explain that one is that's the timeline where Goku dies from the illness. And then you have the DBZ movies, which are technically their own thing, because when those were made, they were made before certain key points in storylines were revealed by Toriyama. And so they would have to be their own timelines now in order to make sense. They were originally going to be canon, but because they were made without context, they can't be canon anymore because they contradict what happens in the actual story. So yes, there are multiple timelines. It would have to work that way because Dragon Ball basically establishes that it's not that time travel is not linear. And the funny part is, Blue Hair Trunks points this out to young Trunks, to Kid Trunks, because there's a moment when the two are talking, and then the blue-haired future Trunks tells young Trunks to fly up in the air with him, and so they both do, and they look at the city. I think it's at night or something like that, and future Trunks tells Kid Trunks, "I don't have any memories of looking at the city like this." And he basically tells Kid Trunks that they are two different people because they're from two different timelines. Because Kid Trunks is looking at the city the same way he is, and future Trunks says, "I don't have memories of looking at the city like this." So he further clarifies that they are two different versions of the character. Because he would have to be in order for any of that to make sense. And plus, like, you gotta remember, if the time stuff wasn't a factor, then Goku Black wouldn't exist in the first place because Goku dies of a heart disease in Future Trunks' timeline. So it would have to be an alternate timeline. And if you're trying to say they're the same timeline, then it's like, okay, how come Zamasu didn't die from the heart disease then? Or whatever the case may be. Unless that's like an alternate timeline where Goku had already taken the antidote. Which again just supports that it's a different timeline. Oh yeah, the whole future special thing. Yeah, like we already see what he goes through in that timeline. And Goku Black just doesn't make sense to fit in that timeline if you're trying to say he's the same as Blue Hair Trunks. It's like, no, you can't be the same person. That doesn't make any sense. And I know the idea is that Blue Hair Trunks was originally supposed to be designed with blue hair. Like, I understand that. But then you also have to remember that Trunks was originally made not tied to Vegeta at all. Or Bulma. Like, those two, that pairing was not a thing until it was. And because Trunks was made before that idea became a thing. So he could have just been like, he was supposed to be like a random Saiyan from the future. And then they just tied it into like, oh no, these two got together and then that was it. Ponytail or untied Trunks? Honestly, either or. Like, I'm fine with both, honestly. I think untied is probably a slightly better, but I'm fine with both. And then there's the whole like, is Trunks' sword magical or not? Because if you're going off of the lore that he gets it from Tapion, then it should be magical. But that kind of doesn't make sense because it doesn't like, I can't remember who broke it. Wasn't it like 18 that breaks it or something like that? Like rather easily. But again, that's like you can just say that's a whole other timeline thing. I wish we got a version of Trunks with long blue hair. Yeah, that would have been neat, but like he's like his own time moment, so just throw his ass into the hyperbolic time chamber. Hypersonic Lion Tamer. But yeah, like it was weird when they tried to say that the Trunks from the Dragon Ball Super Trunks or Future Trunks was the same Trunks from before. And I'm like, that's impossible because their scenarios don't line up at all. And then wouldn't that really suck that if the purple hair Trunks and the blue hair Trunks were in the same timeline? Because that just means that everything purple hair Trunks did to save his future was for nothing. Because it ends up getting erased by Zeno. Wouldn't that just be some shit to throw at him? It's like, damn, I went through all of that just to have my entire timeline be obliterated. So I think it's best that Super Future Trunks, or that Dragon Ball Super Future Trunks and Dragon Ball Z Future Trunks are two different characters. Because that would just be some shit. I mean, it'd have to be that way anyway, but still. It's like, damn. Oh yeah, if we went off of Dragon Ball Heroes and Xenoverse, then they would, yeah, they all they do is clarify that it's separate. No, you have not told me that, and that is a interesting pairing. Anyway, I am taking way too long on this now. I've been so wrapped up in talking. Don't worry about it though, that's just me. Let me just fix whatever I need to fix, and then we can move on. Like, the closest tie-in we have between blue hair trunks and purple hair trunks is just they have similar situations after a certain point. But then there's just stuff that just doesn't line up. Yeah. I want to have him having the mask around his belt, but he kind of doesn't need it. And I don't think I'm going to have that part of the hat behind him. I don't know, we'll see. Yeah, I'm not gonna put that there. It just seems like a unnecessary thing, but I do want to give him some kind of belt. I love that every time we see Trunks, it's a different Trunks because something got fucked up in the future. But yeah, anyway, circling back to the whole Doomsday thing, like, if he can't, like, if he doesn't exist, then there's nothing to revive from. And if you're trying to tie it into, like, he can come back if he's tied to, like, Superman living type of thing, then if we're going off of, like, story lore or whatever, then all Superman would do is just do something to kill himself, so he'd probably just get kryptonite or whatever and end it to prevent Doomsday from coming back, because that's just what Superman would do. But then later on, they're just gonna bring back Superman, and by that logic, that means Doomsday would return. And at that point, it's just magical stuff. It has nothing to do with, like, Doomsday's ability to come back and then adapt. It's just, no, he came back because reasons, and that's kind of it. So it's not really a feat of Doomsday. It's more of just making up reasons for him to not die, whether they make sense or not. And then the part that also, you know, locks you writing wise is if you get to a point where an entity cannot be defeated, then how does anybody win that story? Because sure, you could come up with some examples of getting rid of the character, such as like sending them into another dimension or something like that, or whatever. But you get to a point where you're just gonna make up reasons for them to come back from that, and then you're just putting yourself in a corner even harder, because it's like, well, he came back from another dimension now, so I guess he adapts to that. And then it's like, okay, so how do we kill him? And it's like, well, we already got rid of him by erasing his existence, and he came back from that because of whatever bullshit writing that we came up with at that point. So what do we do? And that's just like a scenario you don't want to put yourself in, writing wise. So if erasing his existence has to be the answer, then let that be the answer, and don't just make up reasons for it to no longer be the answer. Because then you're just making it harder and harder to use that character. Do you think if it ever happened, the person writing Doomsday would be like, he's my OC, I said so? I mean, that's most characters in general. It just sucks where at a certain point they're given writer bias that doesn't make sense for them to have story wise. Especially when they obtain knowledge that they shouldn't have. Or like a feat that should not have been doable. Yeah. Like, a character is more interesting when they are shown to be grounded by the rules established by the world, it's by their own world. Because then it shows that they have to, learn and be more knowledgeable about their situations and stuff like that, and not just, I magically have the answer to this. It's basically what happens to Naruto and Sasuke in their original story, where you go through the entirety of the manga thinking that all of their abilities and stuff like that are from hard work and their training to be able to attain it. They go through all this bullshit in order to get to the point that they are, and then right at the end you find out that they're just reincarnations of deities and shit like that, and it's like, oh, okay, so all of this is just straight up bullshit then. Like, it doesn't matter how hard they trained and all that, it was destined to happen this way because they were reincarnations of these deities. And it just sucks the entirety, it just sucks the fun out of everything at that point. It's like the character was 100% more interesting without that little tidbit of knowledge. I have never heard of CapCut. I assume it's just like a art recording thing. This is a very popular thing. Very prayer. I want to have it. It just depends on how you go about it. Like if you're taking inspiration from something, there's nothing wrong with that. It just depends on execution, honestly. Like obviously you don't want to play it beat by beat, but you definitely want to show what separates the inspiration from your creation. It's editing software like TikTok. Oh, okay. That's interesting. Always good to know more editing software if needed. And since I tweaked that, let's tweak this a bit. And I can type this into the same costume. If I do put the back one in, nah, I'm not gonna do it because he was. Unless I put two of them, because then he's just gonna look like a Gadian. No, I'm just gonna leave that alone. It just doesn't look right anymore by doing that. Red. Okay. Yeah, like just do what you enjoy, and if you try to take it further, then just it's better to focus on. Like me personally, it's better to focus on original work. But if you do lean more into just doing like parodies and stuff like that, then just understand your audience at that point. If you're trying to do something bigger with it. Oh, I have been doing this entire time without fucking saving. Good job, me. An hour and a half without saving. That is smart. You're not who I'm looking for. There you are. But yeah, like there will be a point in time where you'll decide how you're gonna go about it, because there'll be a point in time where if you do want to do more with it being your original stuff and all that, then you'll have to cut ties from the inspiration to some degree. Like for example, if your work is constantly involving, like, let's just say Goku or Sonic or whatever, if you wanted to go further than that, you would have to remove those characters at some point. Unless you're just solely going to focus on parody, you would have to remove them because of legal stuff. But other than that, if you're just solely focused on parody, then there shouldn't be any problem with that. It just depends on how you go about it. Oh yeah, Sonic R was just like, damn. It would be really interesting to see a modern Sonic game with the feel of the 90s or look of the 90s. Like Sonic CD art style, but in modern day. But with like the music of like between Sonic R and Sonic Adventure 1. It would be very interesting to see a game with that design, because it's doable. It's doable to make the art style in 3D because fans have done it already. But it'd be interesting to see like an official take with like a more clear-cut story. My only gripe with the modern games, though, has always been that you just have these gigantic levels that you just blaze through like immediately. So there's so much background lore going on that you just don't see it all, because a lot of the direction has just been get through the level as quickly as possible type of thing, rather than the actual platforming. Which was why I liked the more linear takes of Sonic levels, because it made you look around more, and you'd see like stuff in the background that you didn't notice right away. Kind of like in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, where when you get to Lava Reef, the boss for that, the the boss for the second act, and you're put on rails for a moment where you're just dodging Dr. Robotnik's missiles that are blowing up the bridge and all that. And in the background, you see the Death Egg stuck in the mountain with its face facing downwards, and everything's on fire and all that. Because it even comes up when it sets everything ablaze and all that. But like you're seeing it in the background as you're running away, and it just adds more context to the lore or to the story. That's like, yes, the Robotnik's Death Egg is still stuck and it's trying to get out, and you're going through like Hidden Palace and stuff like that. So it just feels like more lived. Whereas in the modern games, it's just you have giant levels with all this stuff going on, but you're blazing through it so quickly that you're not even appreciating the design. It's kind of like in Chemical Plant, where you just see like a bunch of city buildings in the background, and it just makes you wonder. And then when you see it in modern day, it just makes it feel like more fleshed out. But it's still like modern Sonic design where you're just blazing through it all. So I would love a more. I kind of like the Sonic Adventure, where Sonic Adventure is a lot more linear. You're seeing like levels a little bit more fleshed out, kind of like Speed Highway, where you're seeing the city, you're running through it, but you're more like confined to a certain amount of space. So you're able to like look at the level design and like some little tidbits, like, oh, here's some advertisement billboards and stuff like that. Here's like the city floor with the police and stuff like that. Like all that feels more fleshed out and lived in, rather than just here's a giant level, about 80% of it you're not going to see because you're just going to blaze through it as quickly as possible, and that's about it. You're not like spending the time to look around, unless it's like for red rings, but even then it's like most of the red rings are like in your direct path anyway. Let me read some of this. Do you remember in the first row of Sonic CD or those large ramps where the camera pans behind? Yeah, what about them? I think I got all that, okay. Ah, well that's neat. But yeah, like Sonic's World has like natural loops for whatever reason. That's always been like a weird thing where you just see like the levels themselves are designed to have like springs and stuff like that. And it's always weird because you don't know if they were like placed there by Dr. Robotnik or if they're just there naturally. Which is fine if they are. It's just interesting that they just exist. I'm just gonna put a face here. And get his tail. Ah, well that's cool. It's been a while since I played CD, so I'll have to look at that again. Okay. Guess I'm gonna just add some stuff to him. I think I'm gonna tweak this. Actually, I should leave it alone. Yeah, it's fine the way it is. No, he is a natural demon. Or fiend, or whatever you want to call it. I am debating on reworking that and making him either a demigod or a god. But it might be better to be demon. Because his whole story is that he basically dethrones the devil. At least for a while. can't think of anything else to do to him, so it might be smart to leave it alone now. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it alone. Alright, we can move on. Let me just move on a bit. Daylock, no, the devil is Daylock, and this character dethrones her at some point. But the deal making with Skylar is no longer canon. That is no longer a thing. Because realistically, Daylock would not care about what happens to Skylar. And even if it was a thing of, oh, you should have died in this moment but you didn't type of thing, she wouldn't be the one handling that scenario. If anything, it would probably be death itself. But even then, that's a bit of a stretch. No, basically he just takes like the source of her power, or at least originally that was the case. Where this was like before Daylock became like a celestial thing canonically, because this was all like made before all that stuff became a thing. But basically he originally he took a thing called what was it called? Damn, what did I call it back then? It was like, you know what? I have his fucking bio. Why don't I just look at it? Blah blah blah. Okay, so he basically takes a thing that's called eternal life, and it's like the structure of heaven and hell. And basically, he takes whatever Daylock has that contained in and uses that to basically strip her of her powers and then boot her out of hell and send her into the mortal world. And then he becomes basically the devil for a period of time. But like, because his whole logic is just, you know, disorder, he's like not abiding by the rulings of where you're supposed to go when you die type of thing. And so like, even if you're a good person, he'll just send you to hell just because he can. But this is likely to be changed for the new continuity, as there may be a character named Discord who may be a thing. So Chaos could be either working with Discord or be an avatar of Discord or whatever the case may be. but he will still be Daylock's main villain for her story. It's not so much being tricked, it's just he gains the knowledge of where the source of her abilities, of her power was kept, and he basically finds a way to strip it from her. But this may be changed because of how the structure of god characters are now. So it could be like a god versus a god type of scenario. But like he's like the instrument that causes it. Some dude posted a comment. I mean, all of that is just your own made-up story, so it doesn't really matter what anybody else's comment is, honestly. Honestly, I just wouldn't engage, personally. Because especially if it's like shipping that has like practically zero. What's the best way to put it? It's like a extremely unlikely scenario thing. It's just like, you know, at that point, just don't give a shit about what people say. Just have fun. I'm more in the mentality of like, I don't care what most people think of whatever ridiculous thing I end up posting or drawing or whatever, because at the end of the day, if I'm enjoying it, that's all that matters. When it comes to like constructive criticism, of course, you know, pay attention to that. So if there's something that you think needs to be fixed or looked at again, then definitely take that into account. But if you're just having like ridiculous, nonsensical fun, then don't worry about what other people say or think. Usually my shipping has to do with in-universe stuff, or like characters that actually appear in the same continuity, or the same story or series. That way it's more interesting. If I'm just like throwing in any character from anywhere, then it really doesn't matter because nothing will line up to begin with. But that's just me. That's just my mentality of it. Because like if I want to do something ridiculous where I ship, I don't know, let's just say Godzilla with Judy Hopps, then you know every bit of logic after that is already thrown out the window. It's like, okay, nothing after that point makes any sense anyway, so it doesn't matter. Oh yeah, people are gonna reply without reading a post fully or the source material or whatever the case may be all the time. Like there's a certain point where you just stop caring and only listen to like people that you value their opinion. Even if it's like somebody you don't know personally, if you've seen them enough times and they make like, you know, valid statements and stuff like that, then yeah, like that's more reason to at least look at what they're trying to say or try to, you know, comprehend what they're trying to tell you and all that at that point. But if there are just going to be people that are giving you nonsense or posting before they've even watched the whole thing, or it's literally like YouTube videos where you can make a video and put in like a shit ton of work, but then if you title it, let's just say what ridiculous thing could I say? Springtrap one shot Superman. Like if that's like the title of your thing, and you even make up some like silly thumbnail to you know build into clickbait or whatever, there are always going to be people who will like, you could post the video like literally right now, and there will be somebody who types it in your let's just say your video is 10 minutes. There will be somebody who posts a comment like 2 minutes later going on a giant rant of how Springtrap cannot possibly beat Superman, and they didn't even watch your video to know why you even made the statement in the first place. So there's always going to be bullshit. So don't worry about it. Like, it is just going to happen because it happens. Or like, Chica the chicken can beat Madara, and here's 20 reasons why, and it's like a 10-minute video, but people comment like 2 minutes later with, no, Madara can blah 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 blah. It's like, you didn't even watch the video to know why I even said that. So yeah, just get you just get to a point where you just tune everything out, and you only listen to like people that you actually trust their opinions on, or even if it's somebody you don't know, but like they have like an actual conversation about it, and whatever their argument is, whether for or against your statements, you know, they are worth way more than just the average asshole who's too quick to jump on the gun to even comprehend what you're even talking about. Yeah, if you're doing stuff like that, then just have fun with it. The only thing to avoid is to just like trying to argue that it's canon or something, because then you'd have like a whole discussion at that point. Because like one could argue that there are only two versions of Chica. No, three versions of Chica that actually have anything to do with food. Like, actual involvement with it. And technically one of them got retconned, so there's that. Which is very interesting that that one got retconned. I do not know why that became the case. It might have had to do with a voice actor or something. But it's very interesting that that happened. Honestly, stuff like that doesn't matter to me. It's like, guys, if you're always constantly jumping on the ages of fictional characters, that says more about them, about you, than it does about the characters. Because it's all just fictional shit. And it's very odd that that's the first thing you think of when it comes to fictional characters. But regardless, whatever character you're intending, you know, at least you're clarifying it. But yeah, it's like, people really need to stop doing that. It's like, man, you guys put way more attention on fictional characters than you do actual people who would love to have that kind of attention so they can get out of the situations that they're in. But no, we're gonna argue the consent of, or whatever, of characters that don't, of people that don't exist. Well, no, if I'm being perfectly honest, it just boils down that they have nothing going on in their lives. And they just need something to feel acknowledged. Just to have like a sense of purpose. Or they're just in, or honestly, they could be doing some shady shit themselves. Because more often than not, people that go out of their way to argue shit like that end up being the type of people who do that shit. Which has been very interesting And the weird part was a lot of them were being caught via Twitter because their likes were public and stuff like that. And at a certain point, you could find out that they were into like really fucked up shit. But then once Twitter hid everybody's likes, that just made that become harder to discover. But for a time, that was the case, and I was just like, huh. If anything, it's more suspicious of Twitter hiding the likes. It's like, hey Twitter, why'd you do that? Like, not saying anything, just curious why you would hide likes like that. Because it made arguments really fucking easy. When somebody would say, oh, you're into stupid ass Naruto stuff, and then you find out all they do is save Naruto art. And I was like, man, you were making my job hella easy. Yeah, and of course there can always be context to more things, like, oh, this person's picking on you because they're being abused at home or some bullshit like that. Like, there's always a reason to everything. But most of the time it's tied to whatever's going on with them. Yeah, it's honestly just better to not respond. For a lot of situations, it's just better to not respond. Because outside of having to defend yourself when it comes to like you know, like website owners, or like if you're posting on, like, let's just say Twitter, for example. If Twitter comes to you and be like, hey, what's going on here, then that's when you know, explain the situation or whatever. But if it's just a bunch of people jumping on you for some made up shit that you did because you did it for fun, or whatever the case may be, then just don't respond. It makes, one, is just a waste of time and mental brain power, and two, it doesn't matter. And again, I would love to see that kind of energy and effort be put into helping real people who need it. Because God knows that if we had the same kind of motivation be put into real life stuff, then who knows how far we'd get. Like, I'm sure a lot of problems would be solved. I mean, hell, there are people who figured out where a person lived, or where a streamer lived, based off of the fucking reflection of her in her eyes. And you're telling me these same people couldn't possibly be useful for like some kind of real life scenario? Where it's like, damn, we need to find out where this kidnapper is keeping this kid. And then it's like, yo, I figured it out. Whoa, how'd you do that? Oh, the guy said I don't know, let's just say he said like a particular word that most people from a certain region say, and then that's how they figured that out. And it's like, oh, plus, you know, the reflection from his ring finger showed me the house across the street, and I know where that is by Google Maps. And then that's how I found out where the person's keeping this kid that they kidnapped or whatever. And that's how he found it and, you know, informed authorities. It's like, that kind of shit would impress me. I mean, it was already impressive that they found a streamer's location based off of fucking reflection in their eyes, which still blows my goddamn mind on that part. Like, that was already impressive, but good lord, if we use that kind of ability on something more more productive, I would be madly impressed with humanity at that point. Oh yeah, Reddit is an awful place when it comes to sharing opinions about things or just having fun with like an idea. Like, the most I've ever done with Reddit was just post my cosplay on the Kamen Rider Reddit. That is it. I wasn't expecting anything out of that. If it got taken down for somebody's personal opinion of it, then I would just been like, alright, and just moved on. I was like, alright, I don't need this. But overall, Reddit is just not a good place to be posting shit in general, because there are too many biased opinions on it, and then if somebody can just remove your shit because they didn't like it, and it's like, even if it didn't break any rules or whatever, then that's just ridiculous. To farm reaction memes? I guess. Because people will just post memes all the time on there. But I mean, people do that on Twitter and Tumblr and Blue Sky, so Reddit wouldn't exactly be a big loss if you didn't use it anymore or something. And then the only thing that fucked up Twitter was just the whole no more posting not safe for work stuff. And then everyone was like, well, I guess we're leaving this shithole. And that just destroyed them for like the longest time. And that almost happened to OnlyFans. That was the funniest part. OnlyFans was like, oh, no more not safe for work stuff or whatever the hell they were trying to stop. And people were pulling out hard until OnlyFans was like, wait. It's like, oh, you came to the conclusion that sex sells? Damn, glad you figured that out faster than Tumblr did. Alright, don't need him anymore. Fansly is next. It is banned mind control. Okay. Again, this falls into the whole people thinking that fictional characters should be treated the same way as real life people type of thing. It's just really, really, really stupid. Because like, oh, mind control takes away consent. It's like, bitch, it's a fucking drawing or whatever. It's a made up shit. What are you doing? It's like, what kind of nonsense is that? It's like, well, they can't consent. Like, bitch, I made the character or whatever the scenario is. I am literally their god. I'd make whatever happen happen. They technically don't have consent to begin with because I make the shit happen. So what the fuck are you talking about? That's like any drawing ever. any source of a piece of media ever. The characters have no agency of their own. They don't exist outside of the writer, creator, producer, whatever's whims. So what are we talking about? It's such a stupid ass fucking thought process, and this carries over to like literally everything. Everyone has like some weird biased opinion over these things, and I'm just like, guys, it's not real. After that clarification, you should not give a shit. Yes, you should label your shit properly so that, you know, you're not just having little Timmy come across your sex raged Luna artwork fucking, I don't know, the Rocketeer. Sure, you know, we don't want that kind of situation happening. But after that point, this is for adults. Let adults do whatever the fuck they want, as long as it's, you know, not doing something illegal or hurting anybody in real life. After that scenario, there we go. We're fine here. Like, what are we doing? The game No Mercy. I've never heard of it. Back with Skies. Yeah. We live in a darkest time. We just live in a confusing timeline. It's not even dark, it's just confusing. Just a lot of people making dumb decisions, and unfortunately those people are in places of power. And something as simple as drawing a goddamn picture can drum up so much fucking headache that it's amazing that we are even alive. Yeah, exactly. That is all of history, and that's the part of the problem. It's like, man, how did we go through thousands of years of creating records and information to learn from, and, you know, we always come with certain sayings like, oh, history is doomed to repeat itself, and oh, we gotta learn from our mistakes, blah 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 blah, all this nonsensical bullshit, and nothing's changed. We have literally learned nothing. And I'm just saying the royal we, like, obviously there are people who have figured this out and have made these changes and have figured out how to make life better, but unfortunately the world is ruled by idiots, and idiots are the majority. Every once in a while you'll have somebody smarter be in a position that helps and all that, but those moments are few and fleeting. And the best I can say is just take care of yourself. It's like the best advice I can really say is just take care of yourself. Do what you need to survive. And hopefully nobody else's bullshit will ruin your life because of some idiotic scenario that we shouldn't even be in the first place. It's kind of like the whole, like, credit card companies trying to control what people buy. It's like, bitch, your purpose is to help me buy something from a place that is difficult to buy from. That is it. You're not here to dictate what I'm able to buy. Obviously, if you're not buying anything illegal and all that shit, or things that would harm people. But other than that, it's like, dude, your job is to help me buy shit, not tell me what I can and cannot buy. Because that was like their whole thing was like, oh, you can't buy certain manga and stuff like that, or like based off of their criteria of what they were trying to pass, that would just mean like, oh, okay, so Dragon Ball, Naruto, One Piece, and whatever else out there would be considered not legal to buy through certain credit card companies. And I'm just like, what are we doing here? But yeah, like, we're getting into a lot of like fuck around and find out moments, which we shouldn't be having happen this many times. At least not so soon. But whatever happens, happens, and when we cross that bridge, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Type of thing, type of mentality. Because there's honestly nothing you can really do until you're put into a position where, depending on your life choices, may or may not fix the problem. Yeah, and a lot of it's just stupid. Kind of like what happened a few years ago with people protesting about, the usage of oil and gasoline and stuff like that, but for some idiotic reason they think that vandalizing an art museum will help solve that problem. And I'm just like, what the hell are you talking about? Or even worse, where they think that interfering with traffic will get people to listen. It'll definitely get their attention, but it's not going to make them want to listen because you're fucking around with their day, especially those who have to go to work to put food on the table, because unfortunately those people possibly live paycheck to paycheck, and they don't need your dumbass getting in the way of them going to work and not lose wages. So even if you have a really good message to put out there in the world, don't fuck around with somebody's day, because at that point you're just gonna lose the plot and nobody's gonna want to help you with whatever discussion you're having. Yeah, but as much as people would love to do that, they definitely don't want to go to jail. So, not worth it. Especially not for some dumbass who's trying to make a statement that doesn't make sense. It's like, yeah, that's not worth going to jail for. There are much better reasons to go to jail for. I mean, I'm sure there's some legal shit that would tie into that, but hey, if it works, it works. Just hopefully you don't get in trouble if you ever attempt to do that. Because I'm sure there's some legal nonsense that could be tied to that in some way. There always is. Because you're physically interacting with a person at that point. Yeah, but some of them don't care. And that's the hard part, is when you come across the people who don't care. They just want to pretend that they're making a difference, and they're willing to go through the nonsense for it. And if anything, all you're doing is technically helping them. Like if all you're doing is making them smell worse, then that's just gonna help them emphasize their position. And they're gonna sit there being stinky, and that's even worse, because now it's like, oh great, not only do we have these assholes, you know, being here and causing traffic and all that, but now they all smell, and that just makes things worse. So you definitely gotta think about the aftermath. But that's just me. Like I tend to overthink these things. All right, take care. The blue is such a wild choice. Well, it helps break up the colors. Because if you just make them all match each other, then it kind of blurs into each other. So the blue and the purple, the purple frills and all that kind of help break it up. This is Chaos. He is an old villain character from World Gates. He is Daylock's villain. Here's his original art. Let me make sure you can even see that. Okay, you can. So yeah, just been redesigning him. Not too much has changed compared to his original version. But basically, his whole story is that he basically dethrones Daylock and removes her from Hell and sends her to the mortal world. And she has to figure out how to get back into Hell. Or at least regain her lost status. Yeah, we were just talking about random stuff throughout most of it. Damn. Keep not paying attention to what I'm doing. It's a little bit of autopilot. And almost time to stop. But I think we can finish this up. Thank you. Don't think I need that layer. Oof, that is messy. I might clean that. It's one of those things where it's like, if you're not going to notice it, then don't bother. So I'm going to try to put that into practice this time around. It's a weird feeling, but it definitely saves time. And let's just put this up while I'm doing this. Alright, all that's left really is some random ass background to throw them into. Grab these three and see what we can do with them. lot of this can work, depending on how I go about it. I'm gonna go with this one. Probably don't need this one. But let's throw it in just to see what we get. Stars are a bit much. Let's take this, do that. Interesting. Right? We're almost done though. I'm just kind of dicking around to see what I like in the end. A lot of this is probably going to be darkened, so that way he stands out from his background. It's between divide and there was one of the other ones up here. This one definitely helps them stand out, bro. This one's the most obvious, but I don't want it to be so bright. And then this one's like inverted. And I like it. I think I'm gonna pick this one. Because it just works with his character more. Alright, so here's the updated version of Chaos. A bit more simplified compared to his original. Let me grab his original one more time. Close these. Yeah, a lot more simplified down. So that he's like less complicated. Cloud bar. Just a little bigger. But yeah, a lot of visual vomit from him. That's kind of his thing. He like causes a lot of confusion and hallucinations and stuff, as well as doing like sleight of hand. I feel like there was something I was supposed to do, and now I'm slowly remembering what it was. I was like, wait, there was one other detail you were supposed to do. Like, wait. So I did that. Then copy. I'm not gonna play any more music because I'm about to stop in a moment. Paste. Go back to this. Let's put it to like a 10. This is even making much of a difference. Just barely. Lower it down. This is probably unnecessary. Put it to like 50. That way it's like there is a glow, but it's like not super important. There we go. Wait, are you still? You're still on screen. Yeah, that's better. Okay. All right. No, I decided to not do that because I wanted to make him less similar to either Viro or Essence and other Gadian stuff. Trying to keep them as more unique than, because that was just like a habit that I kept doing. So trying to make them more unique in that stance. But anyway, yep, that's his redesign. I'll post it up a little later. But yeah, so at least one freaking World Gates character got updated in recent years. But yeah, thank you everybody for coming. I will stream again tonight at 9 p.m. Pacific time, and in the meantime, I'll probably go get something to eat and work on something else. But yeah, you guys take care and have a good day. All right.